everyone, Jav here with another video from Stay Safe with Will and Jav. Today I'm going to talk about what lessons NGOs or not-for-profit organizations have learned in 2020 and what are the different strategies that they applied as they dealt with this unprecedented situation. So I had an informal conversation with a number of NGO colleagues from different organizations, and I compiled a few strategies that NGOs applied to dealing with the COVID-19 situation, and also a list of key learnings, if you like. And I'm going to share all that with you today. So let's start with some of the strategies that NGOs employed as they dealt with the COVID-19 situation. And I'm not claiming that this is exactly how all organizations acted and reacted to the COVID-19 situation, but at least the people that I spoke to hinted at these. So here it is. Number one was crisis coordination and communication. So a lot of the NGOs that I spoke to, again, informally, colleagues mentioned that at the headquarter level and also at the front line, at the program level, they activated crisis management teams in order to coordinate the response and to make sure that the whole organization was moving in the same direction instead of having a fragmented approach to the COVID-19 situation. Number two, ways of working and operating model. So a lot of the NGOs had to cold turkey switch to virtual office working, and that came with a lot of challenges, especially at the program level where Wi-Fi, data, technology, all of those are quite scarce, and even the skills to using these technologies is also very scarce. Most of the colleagues said that their organizations had to switch from physical offices to virtual offices almost immediately, like cold turkey switching, and many of the global organizations found it quite unusual because even though their staffs are usually working flexi hours and different time zones, but still just being virtual all of a sudden and not having that physical connection greatly hampered the initial phases of their response to this pandemic. So the third part of the strategy was duty of care, ensuring that staff, partners, third parties, communities, stakeholders, their health and safety was at the forefront of whatever strategy was being made. And even though NGOs really wanted to resume programmatic implementation, they needed to be very cautious and very, very careful about what that would mean for the health and safety of the frontline staff, but also the communities. So the fourth one was program delivery. A lot of the NGOs were so keen to resume or scale up their programs because the communities really needed the support for COVID awareness and for PPEs, personal protective equipment, education about sanitization, hand washing, and facilities thereof. However, before doing that and in the process of planning program resumption, NGOs really needed to consider the safety and security of those at the front line, also the communities, the partners, and really the larger population where they were working. A lot of the NGOs also repurposed their programs to suit the emerging needs due to COVID-19. So developmental programs, their focus was kind of shifted towards health and safety, and organizations that particularly focus on hygiene and health issues, they then narrowed down to the COVID-19 related health challenges. I also spoke to the colleagues as to what the main challenges were as they were trying to balance health and safety and program continuity. So number one was setting up and getting used to virtual workplace across their international or global presence. And it wasn't just internally, but also the external interface with communities and partners. That was a big challenge. The virtual mode of interaction was challenging in mainly two ways. Number one, access to technology, like I just mentioned a while ago. And the other one was cultural and language factor. You know that a lot of languages and a lot of cultures And like you would see me do that too. I use my hands quite a lot, and I use my facial expressions, and that is part of the way I have learned to express myself. So language, this verbal or the voice that you hear, is one part of how I communicate. So that's just me. But take it to a big population or a culture where hand gestures and facial expressions mean a lot, and that's a major part of how you're communicating. And in an environment which is virtual, or a medium of communication that's totally virtual or electronic, you feel like you're losing that ability to communicate clearly and at the same time to understand and receive the message as intended. So that causes a lot of anxiety, confusion, and also discourages effective communication. So that was challenge number 1. Challenge number 2 was financial sustainability. Because NGOs usually generate their funds through individual donations or institutional grants. But with COVID, the world economy saw a recession, a major dip. And people's ability to earn, make a living, put food on the table, and also give to charity was greatly hindered. And all this had a direct bearing on an NGO's ability to raise funds. Now I'm going to talk about some of the lessons that were learned, and that's all throughout 2020. Number 1 was effective leadership. So effective leadership is key to managing any crisis. We know that. Of course, we know that, right? But year 2020 sort of reinforced this knowledge and reinforced the idea of the need to have a very strong, robust, and bold leadership. Leaders may not have all the answers, but it's really important to show up, rise to the challenge, rise to the occasion, and be there, be visible. The other one is number 2. Number 2 is organizational preparedness. I mean, all the colleagues that I spoke to from different NGOs, they said, look, we thought we were prepared, but maybe not enough. So preparedness is something that you do in good times. Preparedness doesn't happen when you're already in the middle of a storm. So a lot of times we notice that, organizations, be it NGOs or other organizations, we find it difficult to invest time, resources, and money and all that in building resilience. But it is so important because it's that inherent resilience that would help you survive and thrive despite challenges and even in the face of crises. So that's learning number 2. Please invest in preparedness and resilience in good days. Number 3, learning staff well-being. And what I heard from my colleagues is that well-being, work-life balance, mental, psychosocial help, all that should be ensured, again, in good times. Don't wait for things to go wrong and then start setting up, psychosocial support helplines and things like that. But rather, it's something that you do is a regular practice, and not just because there is a crisis. Lastly, and this is really close to my heart too, inequality. A lot of people said in the beginning of the pandemic that, this pandemic is a great equalizer, but that's not really correct. Because who suffered the most? People that didn't have resources. The haves still had it better compared to the have-nots. So the inequality in terms of education, people not having access, children not having access to equal opportunities when it came to virtual learning, then healthcare systems, public versus private, and then gender relations. There was a marked increase in domestic violence cases. And because I'm recording this show from South Africa, that there is a femicide pandemic already brewing in the country. And so So yeah, this point is really so true, and it really rings a bell, very close to my heart. So anyway, that's all from me today. But if you have insight and knowledge about how the organizations dealt with 2020, the whole of 2020, what were the challenges and what were the key learnings, please do share with us, and you post them in the comment section. Until next time, this is Jav signing off. Bye.